What is it then? Secure? Support staff. So the email that we just got? Hello and a very warm welcome to CNN Talk. We're coming to you live today from outside Buckingham Palace because President Trump is on his first official state visit here, first state visit to the UK. There'll be plenty of pomp as expected. We've got our panel here, faces that you know very well, Bonnie and Aisha. What a day, and what the next couple of days will be quite exciting, I think, for all of us. President Trump, before he even left, though, had already started to ruffle feathers even on his way here. Bonnie, I know how you feel. Give me a sense of what we can expect, you think, in the next couple of days, because he's not staying away from Twitter, that's for sure.
Well, Trump will be Trump, so therefore he'll be tweeting about his enemies. He'll interfere in British politics, which is not what you're supposed to do, so he's going to do it. He's already attacked the mayor of London. He's attacked various
But he attacked the mayor of London because the mayor of London also attacked him.
But he's the president of the United States. You know, I mean, the problem is we are unconsciously and maybe consciously normalizing this man's behavior. This is not what the president of the United States does. So we can sort of bring him down a notch and say, oh, this is what he should do. But it isn't what he should do. It's out of order. And I think we should say that as often as we can.
But, you know, this honor, I mean, as we're sitting here waiting for the president's chopper to arrive, his helicopter, he's going to helicopter into Buckingham Palace. You can hear the bands behind us playing. Aisha, this is a visit not so much for the president, but more for the United States. Is it not? A state visit is supposed to be in honor of the United States. I know you're disagreeing, but maybe...
I don't know who this visit is for, to be absolutely honest. It's like the worst judged and it's the worst timed visit, because remember, we have a prime minister who is in name but prime minister, but is completely without power. It's like, what a kind of symbol of the absolute hopelessness of Theresa May's like final hurrah as prime minister. You know, there's no point him being there. We're no closer to getting a Brexit deal. We don't know when we're going to be starting to negotiate our trade deal. She has got no influence anymore. She didn't have any influence for a very, very long time.
It's very awkward then for her.
It's awkward for everybody. Nobody wants him here. Even the Queen didn't want him to stay at Buckingham Palace. It was all they're making renovations. The leader of the opposition is refusing to meet him. The leader of the Liberal Democrats is refusing to meet him. The mayor of London. This is not a visit which is working for anyone or anything other than the huge ego of the president.
So who wins? President Trump?
Trump wins the optics thing. This is about his optics. He can show this in Iowa, Indiana,
so his base.
Alabama. Yeah, so they can see him kind of, you know, being defeated by the Queen. This is like the last days of Weimar. You know, you're sitting there with this huge sort of gilded reality, this sort of potentate, helicopters in and his kind of gangster suits. And everybody's standing outside either saying, we hate you, we love you. He's got his supporters in the front. I don't know how they got there, but they're in the front kind of cheering him on. It's so vulgar, it almost even becomes an interesting piece of art to look at.
But I wonder whether, you know, he's getting away from what he wanted, and that's impeachment, that's Mueller.
Oh, he's not getting away from that.
Well, no, he is.
I
think so. I think the timing is absolutely incredible. I find the irony that remember on the last visit he came, he insulted our Prime Minister grotesquely. He did an interview where he basically said how hopeless she was, which is such a disrespectful thing to do. Now, we thought it, but he had no right to kind of say it. How ironic that as her final act, she sets up a visit which only benefits him at home. This is absolute kind of manna from heaven for him. He gets the best optic in the world. We know Americans love the Queen. We know his base loves the Queen.
He's coming here with his family as well.
Exactly. This is an absolute gift for the Republicans. This is an absolute gift for him. This is an absolute gift in terms of his strategy for his, the rerun of his re-election strategy. So I'm afraid, and it sticks in my craw to say this because I cannot stand the man, but this is a win-win for him.
Well, he plays into the trope that most Americans have. Americans have no idea about this country.
Stand by. Okay. All right, we're setting up. We'll have more on this discussion. I think there's so much for us to talk about. Of course, during the whole hour, we'll A very warm welcome to CNN Talk. It is midday. We're coming to you live from outside Buckingham Palace. President Trump is here on a 3-day state visit, first state visit. There'll be pomp, there'll be pageantry, and I suspect plenty of protests too. President Donald Trump has just arrived at Stansted Airport in London.
And he's already taken a sledgehammer to diplomatic etiquette.
President Trump advocated Britain take a tougher stand on Brexit and praised some possible successors to Prime Minister Theresa May.
He said the former London mayor, Boris Johnson, is an excellent contender.
But he's also talked about Nigel Farage, the leader of the Brexit Party, how he should be involved in the negotiations for Brexit.
He made a comment about the Duchess of Sussex being, quote, nasty.
Don't ask me the question if you don't want me to talk about it.
Well, meanwhile, London Mayor and long-time Trump critic Sadiq Khan slammed Mr. Trump in a scathing op-ed.
And says it would be un-British to be rolling out the red carpet for it.
The president just moments ago tweeting about the mayor.
He's a stone-cold loser who should focus on crime in London, not me.
As with his last visits, not everyone will welcome him with open arms.
He said in an interview at The Sun, if people put up blimps of me like that in London, then I'm not welcome here. And he's right, he's not welcome.
We want to hear from you. We will be with you throughout the whole hour. Send us your comments. We are asking you, what will this UK visit by the US president achieve? What will it achieve? Send us your thoughts, your comments. Tell us also where you are writing from, and let us know what you think they can achieve from the UK perspective, but also for the United States as well. And whilst before we begin, I want to show you some live images we have from the back of Buckingham Palace. We're at the front. I want to show you the back because we were expecting President Trump to arrive shortly. This is the back. He'll be arriving by helicopter. We have been told it will be here that he will then meet the Queen. He was at Winfield House, the US ambassador residence, when he arrived from Stansted earlier today, around almost 9 o'clock this morning, and he's expected here today. It's here that he will get plenty of the pomp and the pageantry that I'm sure he will love. Correct? He will love this. Bonnie Greer and Aisha is here with me.
You know, this guy is like Lex Luthor, OK? We have to sort of sit here while he descends in a taxpayer-paid helicopter to have his jolly. I mean, Aisha's right. This is gonna go really, really go very, very well for the base. They love it because Americans have a very corny, reductive idea of this country. So behind us is what most Americans think it is. That's not what America is. So Trump plays into that trope. He plays into it beautifully. He's brought his whole family over here, which is, you know, so
he'll achieve something.
He will achieve something the minute he gets out of the country. Anytime Trump gets out of the United States, he's a win-win situation.
What, because no one's talking about impeachment, no one's talking
Oh, they are talking about it, but Trump pulls the focus.
Yeah.
So if he's not there, then the thing sort of fades, and he gets to be having his headlines.
But he often brings domestic politics with him too when he has these.
He
a lot
is
of these
domestic politics. I mean, he has to travel with that. That's what he does. He's already dissed the mayor of London. He's slapped down everybody else. And this is not what we're used to in the United States. They do this behind the scenes. But no president of the United States arrives in the country like some kind of flaming, you know, Batman to actually attack the country that he's the host of.
But he attacked Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, because Khan wrote a very blistering article over the weekend, and then you're rolling your eyes. But it was quite blistering, where he's called him similar to a 20th century fascist. Was Trump right? I mean, we couldn't imagine Trump to be silent.
This is the president of the United States.
Can we imagine? I mean, we couldn't imagine President Trump wouldn't be silent on something like this. We knew that he would.
Well, we absolutely do, and I think Sadiq Khan is absolutely well within his rights to have written that article. You know, Donald Trump has singled Sadiq Khan out as a leading kind of politician. Why is that? Could it be something to do with the colour of Sadiq Khan's skin? Could it be something to do with the fact that Sadiq Khan is one of the leading kind of rare Muslim leaders in the Western world? Could this be a man who has a massive problem with Muslims? Of course it is. So I think Sadiq Khan is speaking up. You remember, the job of the Mayor of London, he is elected by Londoners. London is a rich, mixed city with a lot of immigration, and Sadiq is speaking up for the people in London who feel absolutely, look, there is chaos around London because of this man's visit. There's gridlock on the roads, you know, security lockdown everywhere. We are a country which is suffering a lot of economic hardship. This trip is costing a huge amount of money. And the worst thing is, it's causing even more division. What Donald Trump has unleashed, not just in America, but across Western Europe and right here in the United Kingdom, is a very ugly, divisive culture war. He's a very divisive character. He brings with, some people bring joy, he brings hate wherever he goes.
Let me bring he tweeted as he was landing, even before Air Force One landed, he was tweeting about Sadiq Khan. Stephanie, if we can bring it up to my producer to bring this tweet up. He says, Sadiq Khan, who by all accounts has done a terrible job as mayor of London, has been foolishly nasty to the visiting president of the United States, by far the most important ally of the United Kingdom, as you can see on your screen. He's a stone-cold loser who should focus on crime in London, not me. Khan reminds me very much of a very dumb and incompetent mayor of New York City, de Blasio, who has done a terrible job, only half his height, he tweets. In any event, I look forward to being a great friend of the United Kingdom, and I'm very much looking forward to my visit landing now.
You know, I hate to say this, but I am going to say it.
I knew you were going to say it anyway.
I am going to say it. What the benefit of this is Trump is going to lay bare what the special relationship really, really is. The special relationship is the United Kingdom as client state of the United States. The United Kingdom's job has always been to represent the interests of the United States in this part of the world. Trump is going to put that on the table naked for everybody to see. And that is what he's doing right now.
And we already saw a bit of that on Sunday. The ambassador Johnson said, look, health is going to be on the tables at NHS, the British, the jewel in the crown of British society, kind of sort of socialism at its best, if you would like, a service which is free at the point of use for everybody, whether you're a prince or a pauper. And the Americans want to get their hands on it. Of course they do. And I think this is the other thing, which Bonnie is right. This is going to, but this could go either way. This is going to be a really big wake-up call for what Britain is going to be like in a post-Brexit era. Now, the big argument about Brexit is that we lost our masters in Europe. I'll tell you what, our new overlord has just arrived in town. We will be slaves to America. We will be slaves to...
Not will be. And I want to say about the NHS, for us, most of us, the NHS is on a top level. We go to the NHS, we get the things that we need. The NHS is a storehouse of information. Big Pharma will climb into this and use this. Trump's business meetings are going to be how to use the NHS. Europe is the only bulwark between the NHS and this man. So we're going to see, as Isha says, we're going to see the whole special relationship in its wiggling little shapes laid out on the table.
And I'm just, as you and I, as we talk here, I'm hearing some helicopters just behind us arriving. You can see over our behind our shot arriving at Buckingham Palace. A chopper. We're seeing two, in fact. We don't know if that's President Trump. He'll be landing in the back of Buckingham Palace. Of course, we'll keep an eye on those images as soon as he lands. We'll, of course, bring those shots to you, as you can see, live shot. In the meantime, I'll bring some of your comments. Susan Fowler, more embarrassment, she says, if you can bring more embarrassment, that's all he will achieve. George, he could run England better than the English, he says. Alfred, also only embarrassment. Actually, quite a lot of embarrassment, Heather. More embarrassment for the US, most likely. Demos, it will show that Mr. Trump still values the special relations between America and England. And Karen, his visit will achieve absolutely nothing. But send us your comments, but also let me know where you are writing from. Go ahead, Aisha.
Pick up on the word embarrassment. I think it's really heartening to hear so many of our commentators say that, because it is embarrassing, but it's embarrassing for our country as well that we are doing this. We don't even have a functioning government right now, and we put on this
helicopter
for this guy. I mean, I feel ashamed of Britain right now. I feel ashamed of the British government.
You don't think we should be rolling out the red carpet?
No, we shouldn't. Do you know what? This is like the worst timing. And, you know, we have a very important leadership contest going on right now. We've got the Conservative leadership contest. A group of 100,000 people are going to decide who will be the next Prime Minister. That person will take this country in a very dangerous direction on Brexit.
We see, Aisha, sorry to interrupt, we're seeing a helicopter landing now behind us at Buckingham Palace. We'll keep an eye on those images. We assume that is President Trump, but of course we don't know for sure until we see him. It could be... other officials,
like
but it might be. It does look like
it. It
does look like it. It is.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on. It's here that President Trump, when he Marine One, when he actually lands, he will be meeting with the Queen. Is that Marine One? Let me know.
No.
Someone can confirm it to me. We don't know, but it will be here that he will see the pomp. He will see the circumstance. He will see the pageantry. It's support staff. We've been told this is support staff, not the president. So we'll keep an eye on that second chopper when it does come in. But Aisha, you were saying you don't think that we should be rolling out the red carpet.
Absolutely. This country is in a political and a constitutional crisis right now. We don't even have a prime minister. Our government can't even get legislation through. Our country is an absolute disaster zone right now. Britain it's an absolute threat. We can't get houses built. We can't get railways built. We've got children going hungry to schools. We've got homelessness going up. And you think about the millions and millions of taxpayers' money. We're having to cut services for old people in this country. We're having to
pay for this?
We're having to cut childcare and stuff like that. So for things like this could not be the worst time. This country is so divided. You know, in my 43 years on this earth, I haven't known Britain be this divided. This is the worst time to have this type of visit.
On the question of division and on the question of so many comments that people are sending in of embarrassment, and as you see the helicopters, the crowds behind us at Buckingham Palace clapping and taking photos, as you can imagine. We're hearing another helicopter, another chopper coming in. How much do you think this will hurt, or will it hurt or benefit whoever the next Tory leader is? I know we had President Trump endorsing in many ways Boris Johnson and saying that Nigel Farage should be the person going in and dealing with you, trying to get a deal. Do you think this will help or hinder?
Yes. So this is going to be a huge shot in the arm.
Marine One is now landing at Buckingham Palace. It's just behind the back part of Buckingham Palace. President Trump will be exiting there, and then soon he will be meeting with the Queen. I'll expect a lot of pomp, a lot of pageantry here, because this is the sort of thing that he really loves and adores, isn't it?
He's like a little emperor. He loves it.
He's exactly this belief that he's part of a dynasty of all sorts.
Well, as I say, the upside of this, and if somebody can use it, is that we're going to see stripped bare what this special relationship is. We're going to see it. Trump is going to show it to us. All the other presidents and prime ministers have hidden it behind closed doors and made it look all beautiful and tinsely and gorgeous. Trump is going to make us see what it really is. And I think, to Aisha's point, I think she's about to make about the conservative person, that Boris, if they decide that they want to get along with Trump, they will make him the prime minister, and then we will see what this special relationship is. It's a great tragedy.
But you were saying,
yes, I think this. So I mean, I wear my colours very heavily. Most of our regular viewers will know I'm of the left. But this visit is going to be an absolute sort of gift for the right in politics, and particularly for those hard Brexiteers, because Donald Trump giving his seal of approval to Boris Johnson, the grassroots of the Conservative Party who are making the decision will absolutely love it. They very much value the special relationship between America. And in fact, the golden time of that era for them was Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. That was the era that they liked best. It's also going to be a very big disappointment for Remainers like Bonnie and myself, because you know, Donald Trump is a pretty hard Brexiteer. He's already made overtures saying, look, send Nigel Farage in to do the negotiations. If we can't get a deal, walk away. So I'm going to be very objective about this right here. This visit is going to be a shot in the arm for people on the right, people who want to walk away with a very hard Brexit or a no-deal Brexit, and people who want Boris Johnson to be the next Prime Minister.
Air Force One just landed. We expect to see the President very shortly. This is Buckingham Palace. If you're joining us here, it's almost quarter past midday here. It will be President Trump meeting the Queen. It's not the first time he has met the Queen. And the last time, well, there were a couple of little hiccups, weren't there?
Well, it was pretty gross. I mean, he walked in front of her like she was some kind of dust woman behind him, and then he finally realized, so he gets out of the way.
He doesn't know the protocol, or he just ignores it?
He doesn't know it, and not only that, he stays in his own mind. Yeah. He stays in the movie that he makes about Donald Trump. The problem is that we have to be careful all the time to talk outside of that movie because of his all-encompassing media presence. Hopefully this time we'll be able to see the special relationship, like I said, in tooth and claw and see what it is. It is, as Aisha says, a great gift to the right, to the far right, not the right to the far right, because this is what this guy represents.
And Boris Johnson and all of that sort of ilk.
But that can hinder Boris Johnson. I mean, there's comments on Sadiq Khan. I think it's fair to say that the majority of Londoners do like Sadiq Khan. He's very popular, isn't it? So that will only mean more protests against President Trump, less support for Boris. What do you...
This is a really interesting conundrum. Yes, I think London is remember, London is not universally a sort of left-wing city.
And here we go. Yes, I'm not. We'll come back to this,
of course.
But let me just bring up these live pictures coming to you from Buckingham Palace. President Trump will be exiting there he goes, Air Force One shortly. There you have Prince Charles will be greeting President Trump. Of course, Prince Charles and his wife will be meeting him for tea later on. The Duchess of Cornwall, they'll be welcoming him, President Trump, at Clarence House for tea. It will be interesting because we know that Prince Charles is very strong when it comes to climate change. He believes in it dearly, organic farming. Do you think there will be a discussion about climate change? Because we know where President stands says on that. He doesn't believe climate change actually exists.
I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Charles does raise it in some way. Charles is actually quite unconventional sometimes, and he does care very deeply about climate change as one of his big things. So wouldn't be surprised if he does actually raise it in some sort of way. But look, I mean, just to loop back to what we were saying earlier, Donald Trump, to give him his dues, is the world's greatest television producer on the planet.
And he's
just look at these pictures. Look at everything. I mean, the gunshots going on.
There we go.
I mean,
you're hearing, if you're just joining us, you've had a gun salute. President Trump.
This is the shot that money can't buy.
President
This is the
Trump
shot that he
meeting Prince Charles.
The guns.
As we're talking, you are hearing the second gun salute as well. Melania Trump, as ever, always looking rather gorgeous in her attire, and both couples, they're greeting each other. I don't know whether they've met before, but we know they'll be sitting down for afternoon tea a bit later at Clarence House. This was Duchess of Cornwall
they get the 21 gun as he's coming. I mean, as Aisha said, this guy, you got to give him his due, master television producer. So he comes down the ramp, and the 21 guns goes off, and there he goes. I mean, it's just, you couldn't buy this.
Yeah.
You couldn't do anything.
These are the shots that he will be. These are the shots that he will be banking
they're gonna
on
play
to get him re-elected.
But I'm gonna play devil's advocate. He's the president of the United States. Doesn't he deserve this? I mean, Xi Jinping gets this. A lot of other
deserves anything.
But he's the president of the country.
No. Donald Trump, there are all kinds of ways to come into this country, and we've been around long enough to know how presidents have come. You don't come, he comes in now like the potentate that he thinks that he is, and as Aisha said, and as I have said, this is for home consumption, because for the last almost 100 years, the notion
and
of this...
the Queen, just seeing the Queen, President Trump greeting the Queen. We won't be able to hear anything.
Maybe he won't stand in front of her this time.
And greeting as well. There he is, President Trump. Seeing the Queen. He has met the Queen before as well, the First Lady, Melania Trump. It's slightly dark, and I believe they're going in. So, shake of the hands from Prince Charles, as well as the Duchess of Cornwall. Soon we'll see them, the Prince Charles, as well as the Queen, and the President inspecting the guards at Buckingham Palace. And as I'm talking, you're seeing those images. We're hearing the royal gun salutes. There you go. This is what we've been hearing at Hyde Park, exactly, right across the country.
America's used to gunfire, isn't it?
Exactly.
He won't ban guns in his own country.
These are firing too slow. They're firing too slow.
But I was saying, this is in honor of the United States, whether you like it, whether we disagree or not with President Trump. This is in honor of the United States. It's not for a president.
It's a state visit, and this is in honor of the office of the President of the United States.
Correct.
I respect that, and anybody would respect that. The fact that the person who inhabits it is what we're talking about. And the fact that actually the special relationship, which is actually for America's benefit, let's be honest about it, is going to be laid out here to bear.
But the royal gun salute, if you're just joining us, is the royal gun salute that we've been hearing. We're seeing those live images. President Trump has arrived at Buckingham Palace in the last few seconds. He arrived with Melania Trump, the First Lady, who was greeted, if you remember, by Prince Charles. We saw the shaking of the hands, as well as his wife. And they have gone in to Buckingham Palace, and behind us, this is where you'll be inspecting the guards. It's something that we have seen before, that President Trump has done before. I'm just going to let you listen to some of this, if you can. Some of the, if we can. And I've got some of the, I want to bring some of the comments that we have coming in. How dare he even be allowed into London after slagging off the mayor, says Diane. Judy, he has already spoken out against London's mayor. I have no idea what he will do next. Solomon saying, I'm watching from Kuwait. Thanks, Solomon. God save the Queen. Thanks, Charles, for the great welcome. May God bless you and your wife. Amazing moment, says Shoes Eater. And someone else says, if I can bring that up again, I think my computer, it's just frozen. It said he wants to divide us, which is what you were talking about earlier, Aisha, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That this idea that we're already pretty divided up and down the country, not just Parliament, but the country is divided. And he wants to divide, even break up Europe. He wants to see a weakened Europe because in many ways it benefits him.
Yeah, and I think that's the real reason about my kind of concern about his visit. By the way, just in terms of protocol, he just came last year. It's actually quite unusual for American presidents to come twice in sort of just about 12 months. And also, it was another commentator was pointing out, it's quite unusual for the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister Theresa May, to have offered a visit so quickly and then to have offered another state visit so quickly. So in a way, they have broken protocol. Normally, new prime ministers and presidents have to earn a bit of time in office before the United Kingdom rolls out the red carpet. But here we have decided to subject the Queen, who is, you know, at an advancing stage of her life, to 2 visits in a very short period of time. But my concern is as what your commentator fed in, it's about division. What Donald Trump represents is a turning back of the clock that people like myself and Bonnie and other progressives have fought for sort of 30, 40 years in terms of racial equality, in terms of gender equality, in terms of religious tolerance. And he has driven a coach and horses through all of that. What Donald Trump represents is privilege, it's white supremacy, it's nepotism.
It's male privilege.
And it's all those kind of things that we have tried. We have striven so hard to kind of move away from. And he has just put that straight back at the heart of our politics in quite an ugly way.
And it's
let me just, if you're just joining us, you're listening to the Royal gun salute fired in several places in Green Park by the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. The Royal Salute also fired by the Honourable Archery Company, and it actually marks both the anniversary of the Queen's coronation, that's June the 2nd, and welcomes the President too. So obviously for the state visit, but also to celebrate the Queen's coronation. Go ahead.
Can I say, as the daughter of a man who came over here for D-Day, my dad's gone now. My uncles were all World War II vets. My brother-in-law is a Vietnam vet. My nephew is in the service. My brother was an Air Force vet, NATO. The fact that this draft dodger is here, honoring what my father went through, and everything else, I think is a disgrace. I think it's disgusting, and that we don't talk about it, that we don't want to talk about it, is the trouble. Not Donald Trump, it's us. We have to tell the truth about this man. He's a draft dodger 5 times, and the fact that he's taking the salute from veterans personally makes me sick.
Draft dodger, white supremacist. Aisha, is that going a bit too far?
He is a draft dodger.
And also look at what he's kind of done in terms of like what he said after Charlottesville when he aligned himself to people who were associated with the Ku Klux Klan. He brought in Steve Bannon into the centre of his White House operation, who is somebody who has, said them, basically pushes an agenda which is about white nativism. And I just think we have to be really honest about this. But look, there are going to be a lot of people out there who completely disagree with people like Bonnie and me. There are going to be a lot of people out there, by the way, who don't think Bonnie and me should even probably be given platforms or kind of thing. And
you're seeing the family, as you see, this is Buckingham Palace. I think that's Ivanka Trump, and Jared Kushner. And Jared Kushner watching from Buckingham Palace because he brought his family with him too.
Well, every day is bring your daughter to work day, so of course Ivanka's with him because that's what happens now. But look, we've got to just remember this is a big sort of stake in the ground. This is a big win, not just for Trump, not just his family, but his values as well.
Let's just pause for a second and listen, taking a moment just to watch this.
Camera down.
Live images coming to you from Buckingham Palace. We saw President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump arriving in the last few minutes. They were greeted by Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall. We also saw in the last few minutes Ivanka Trump, President's daughter, and her husband, Jared Kushner, on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, really admiring the guards that you're seeing there. We are they're still there, as you can see on the left of your screen. We will expect President Trump to come out of Buckingham Palace and inspect the guards. And we were obviously waiting from the US national anthem, the UK, the British national anthem, but also the US national anthem. I want to thank, obviously, Aisha, who was here, Hazarika, who was here, and I'm going to welcome Andrew McDougall. Thank you very much for joining us. What a very lively hour.
Indeed.
As we're looking at these live pictures, and apologies if I have to... Is that John Bolton? Yes, it is. If I have to step in and interrupt at any moment, give me your take first. What will this state visit achieve, do you think, Andrew?
Well, I think probably less than we think it will. These things are all pomp and ceremony and less about substance. And the fact that you don't have a functioning British government at the time means there's not going to be too many heavy decisions made. This is about status, about showing off the special relationship. And this is something I think President Trump values a lot, the symbolism around being the leader of the free world.
What can it achieve, though? I mean, realistically, for Trump, this will play very well to his base. 2020, a campaign starting shortly. But what does UK get out of this? Can UK achieve anything out of this besides a trade deal?
And that's a big one. You know, when you're leaving the European Union and you're looking for a future relationship on the trading side, the US is the biggest, most important trading partner you could have. So if anything comes out of this that furthers that goal, then I think you have to count it as a win. And if Trump is smart, he'll actually listen to the Queen and the royals, who have met more world leaders than he ever will, and take their counsel on a few of them.
But the United Kingdom doesn't come to any table with Donald Trump with a lot of cards. And we're at the point now where the prime asset of this country is the NHS.
Yeah.
And that is what the United Kingdom can put on the table in any kind of trade deal. And for most of us, the NHS is going to our doctor and all of that. But the NHS is a treasure trove of data which American Big Pharma can use. And
No conservative will ever give the NHS full stop. Will never happen.
No, exactly. No, obviously, you're talking about this because we heard from Lee Johnson over the weekend, who basically, I think he's there, I think I just saw him, basically said that NHS, the British Health Service here, could be on the table when it comes to trade negotiations.
Of course it could.
And if Brexit hasn't soured the Tory brand in Britain, doing anything on the NHS would. You see people like Matt Hancock, a leadership contender, come out and say, point blank, we will not open the NHS. It's not for sale. Thank you very much.
That's what they're saying now. But you know, if that's all you got to sell, that's what you're going to sell.
That sells Britain short. There's a lot.
No, not really. And this, well,
advanced engineering, manufacturing, intelligence.
But in terms of an aging society, and the problem with the VA hospitals now, the NHS is a perfect experimental place and a perfect asset for the VA to use, for Big Pharma to use. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen overnight. It'll be just gradually happen because that's what we've got. The VA hospitals right now, which is our equivalent of the NHS, are already overcrowded. There are all kinds of trouble. They could be shipped here to actually take advantage of the NHS. I mean, it's possible.
You still have the UK economy is still in the top 5 in the world. It's not like there are not economic objectives that both countries can have here. I don't think we need to go down the road of fear-mongering on the NHS. And again, I think any conservative that puts that on the table would pay a very heavy price.
And I mean, we haven't heard from Boris Johnson on this. We don't know where he stands. We know that President Trump has endorsed Boris Johnson. I'm sure this is something that may... I don't know what you think.
And we should force a position out of people like Boris Johnson on this question.
Whether he stands on this,
Yeah, exactly. And that's fair play. I think if you can get an answer out of that,
I want to talk about these images here because these are... It doesn't matter whether you support President Trump or you don't. This is a state visit, honours the United States, honours a country rather than a president. And this is something at the same time, though, it's majestic in many ways. President Trump will love this. This sense of adoration is something that he really
well, any politician would.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the election cycle now. He's got like 3,000 opponents on the other side. So this is wonderful because they're not going to get this kind of treatment. Americans have a very corny fairy tale attitude about the United States, about this country. So this all feeds right into it. There'll be the big state dinner and it'll be all of that. And so it works. And of course, Trump will use the office of the presidency to sort of project an idea of power, project the idea of potency coming from him. So this absolutely works. And the Queen, of course, Her Majesty, as head of state, and her children, as representatives of that, will be absolutely gracious, will be absolutely welcoming.
And doors have just opened
man.
to Buckingham Palace. Of course, the Queen has met President Trump before, Andrew and Bonnie. Here we go. President Trump. Let's just listen.
What do you think, everybody? I don't know. Good.
US. There you heard the US national anthem, President Trump side by side with the Queen. First Lady Melania Trump there to her right. And then you have Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall there just walking just behind him. We're now seeing President Trump walking alongside Prince Charles. I suspect he will be inspecting the guards. Last time that happened, Aisha, it was, I think they were inspecting the Queen, wasn't it? It didn't, Bonnie, it didn't go so well, did it, Bonnie?
Well, he was probably looking at the movie inside of his head. I mean, on some level, he sort of expounds a kind of corn-tone down-homeness of what America sometimes in itself imagines itself to be. I mean, we don't respect queens. We don't respect any of this. So the President of the United States can sort of wander along the Guard of Honor and forget who he has behind him.
On her.
Yes. So for a lot of Americans, Trump represents the tropes of America being down to earth, America being not, part of this whole royal pomp and circumstance. So he plays into that, and he plays into it. My background's in theater. I gotta hand it to him. He does the best show in town, and this is now partly Trump, the imperious, and also Trump, the guy just like you. And hey, look where I am, Mom.
And I mean, Andrew, this will do very well back in the United States. There is talk, well, not just talk, there are pushes for impeachment. We heard last week from Mueller as well. There's being here, these images being put up right on screens right around the world. Does this help President Trump kind of switch off from what's happening back home, the impeachment, or do you think that still follows him everywhere?
I think it helps right now, this minute, but it'll be forgotten next minute. And by the end of the day, we'll be talking about something else. I mean, that's Trump's genius in the way the news is changing. It's the genius of it. There's always something new to talk about. So this won't change a vote at home.
Yeah.
This will make for some pretty pictures one day on a newscast. That's it, full stop.
It does, but the optics are important here.
Well, I think that any president of the United States of America would come over here and get the same reception and get the same optics.
Yeah.
Except in Obama's case or other presidents, you get more people lined up to cheer along the way. So really, they're not rolling out a red carpet that doesn't get rolled out for other leaders when they come. This is nothing over and above the usual. And I think we have to remember that. This is just protocol.
Sure it is.
I mean, it's interesting that we have Prince Charles inspecting the guards. I don't know if we've got the camera shot, the camera angle, President Trump speaking to the guards, we've been inspecting the guards. Last time, and correct me if both of you remember better than me, Bonnie and Andrew, he did this with the Queen, correct? He was inspecting the guards with the Queen rather than with Prince Charles. Well, so it's interesting seeing this change already, Prince Charles stepping
exactly.
up.
Partly we're seeing Prince Charles as king in waiting, and he's doing that
and you can
duty.
see the Queen there
and you see the Queen standing
with
there.
the Duchess of Cornwall and with First Lady
Exactly. So they're
Trump.
doing this all very graciously and very gracefully, and of course Trump doesn't realize that's what's happening.
But the irony of it all is that Prince Charles is so different in many ways to President Trump. Something that's very important to Prince Charles is the environment. We know where President Trump stands on this. He doesn't believe in climate change. He does not want to, doesn't support the Paris Climate Change Accord. They're having tea later on at Clarence House with the Duchess of Cornwall. And do you actually think that Prince Charles is the sort of person who can confront in the most diplomatic way President Trump about climate change?
No,
You don't think
the thing with President Trump, he'll come in and say his piece probably, as he should.
Yeah.
But so much of diplomacy is just doing enough to get by. And I think every meeting you assess whether you have a chance to make a difference or not. I don't think anybody's under any illusion that can change the direction of President Trump's travel. They just have to kind of get along with him the best he can until someone else shows up. So I think he'll make his point. I don't think he'll change any minds. I don't think he expects to change any minds.
Partly what the charm, and I put that in quotes with fire around it, of this man is Trump is so transparent. I mean, he really, for many Americans, the dream is to be able to come and do something like this. And the royal family in this country is sophisticated enough to realize that that's exactly what's going on in his head. He brings his family over, his wife, the whole schmear, and Britain is actually playing this up to the max so that he can have that sort of satisfaction.
And actually, interesting you mentioned that. Actor Colin's message on sending in comments, the royal family loves this stuff.
Love it.
So does the public. I mean, look at the crowds behind us. Yes, it's not packed, but people have been waiting here for some time just to see some choppers coming in because we haven't seen him driving around. Hank saying he'll achieve nothing, the waste of money, of time. He does not deserve this visit with the Queen, says Connie and Chris Rain. We all know that there's a greater political issues going on. Today, it is about, it's really about the pomp, isn't it, the state visit today. Tomorrow will be more of a working visit, correct?
Everybody loves a show, and yes, for these state visits, there is an elaborate set piece that you do. Day one is usually all the flowers and bouquets and pomp and ceremony. Day two is there any business to do?
Yeah,
and then day three, let's not forget, we have the very serious task of honoring our veterans. I heard Bonnie speak. My grandfather stormed Juno Beach on D-Day. And that ultimately, I think everybody, whatever your opinion of Donald Trump is, you have to park that at the door a bit. And let's remember that 75 years ago, a bunch of heroes did a pretty amazing thing and stormed a beach and sacrificed a lot of lives to give us a lot of what we enjoy today. And if we can try to keep the discussion and focus there and not let the hysteria around President Trump speak to our bitter angels, I would put them, so much the better.
Very good point, yeah.
But we mustn't, at the same time, and I agree with everything you say, but I think at the same time, what this president does is keep us ignorant. And what is very, very important about American culture is that we know the 85, we know the 100-degree attitude. This man, that moment, and the irony of it. And also, what's
They've just
interesting
finished inspecting the guards. Prince Charles, sorry to interrupt you, Bonnie. Prince Charles and President Trump just finished inspecting the guards. We saw President Trump stopping to speak to those guards, and now they're walking up the stairs. The Queen, as we were saying, decided not to inspect the guards with the president. Instead, it was Prince Charles as she's there, standing next to First Lady Melania Trump, and just behind President. Let's just listen. Give me 1 second. Just listen in. There you have President Trump standing side by side to First Lady Melania Trump. The Queen also there. If we have a wider shot, we can show it to you. We heard the anthem from the US in the last 10 minutes or so. We've got also Prince Charles and Duchess of Cornwall. We saw Prince Charles and the President being met, really just inspecting members of the royal household and British suite. And now what we know is that in the next few minutes, in fact, they will probably be walking into Buckingham Palace. They will then have a private lunch of sorts, and if it's a buffet or a sitting down lunch, I suspect that's the case. And then it's a busy day today for President Trump. Your private lunch with the Queen. Then later on today, he has tea with Prince Charles at Clarence House. And the Duchess of Cornwall there too. And later on tonight, state banquet. We know that Prince Harry will also be attending, I believe, later on today. It's Prince William. Meghan Markle, we've been told, will not be attending. Of course, worth reminding everyone she is still on maternity leave. Let's just listen in for one more second. there you have it. President Trump has, in fact, worked alongside Prince Charles and the Queen. There just seems they're walking in, have inspected the guards. They're now walking into Buckingham Palace, where they'll have a private lunch. President Trump will be having a private lunch with the Queen. And then later on, you'll be meeting once again Prince Charles at Clarence House, where he will be having an afternoon tea. And on the balcony above, as you saw a few minutes ago, we also saw Ivanka Trump and also her husband, Jared Kushner. And actually someone was saying, Bonnie, why is Ivanka there? She's part of his...
That's a hashtag, actually, so we can add to that. You know, I was just wondering what Big Mac looks like on guilt. You know, I was just thinking, you know, McDonald's must be very happy. He's here, and I agree 100% with you, Andrew. He's President of the United States, duly elected. He deserves that respect. This country does that extremely well. And so far, without his tweets, he looks kind of normal.
Yeah.
And you know, this may all turn out to be something that might be positive, but I'm not scaremongering when I say, look out for what's going to be happening in the next couple of months in relation to the National Health Service. It will happen.
So you're thinking, long term in terms of what NHS and whether that's on the table in terms of a trade deal. I want to just put a couple more comments that you sending in. Jam Sharif, chaos and demonstrations only. It will only be furthered international display of his ignorance, says Kim. Kathy, Trump, Brexit, Boris, Nigel. What a great day for the UK. Maria, more embarrassment for the UX. Trump will embarrass himself. And actually, you know, there's been a lot of embarrassment comments here from a lot of people. Why do people think that President Trump will embarrass the United States?
Well, I think we know the answer to that. But I think this is just where I think so much of politics these days has turned from what you believe in to actively hating the other side and wanting them to fail in things. And I think that does you no good in the long run. And I think no matter how much you dislike President Trump, and as a conservative, I don't like him at all. I don't find him very conservative, very respectful of the office he holds. At the end of the day, when you're the government in power at the time that he's opposite the table, you still have to do business with him, and you still have to find a way to get along. And it's easy for an opposition politician to say, you know, you're terrible, I hate you, you're bad for everything I stand for. At the end of the day, the government's got to do something, and it has to act on what it thinks is the best interest of the people, and that's a very different conversation. It's a hard one.
Let's talk about business, because today, a lot of pomp, as we can see, as we can hear behind us, if you're seeing on your screens. Tomorrow will be more business-led. We'll be meeting Theresa May. Of course, our viewers just, you know, who probably may not know, Theresa May stepping down officially on Friday. Makes a very awkward situation, stepping down at a time, of course, when the country is divided, when President Trump is actually backing Boris Johnson, who is a Brexiteer, and saying that Nigel Farage, the Brexit party, should be negotiating with Europe. What does that mean in terms of, you know, as you go into these meetings, political meetings, how does that change?
You know, I can say as Andrew is a diplomat, so he understands the protocol and so forth, and that's actually quite appalling, okay? We can't actually sit here and say that that's okay. His intervention is appalling. Now, everybody will have adjusted to it because that's what they have to do. A business conversation is the only kind of conversation Trump can actually have with anyone, so we're going to have that out there. What they will be talking about is going to be fascinating. They're going to have to be talking about a post-Brexit Britain. And he's also threatened the EU with tariffs. He's into this tariff war.
Well, we saw the United States.
Well, exactly, where he begins to subsidize the regions in the United States that are being affected by the tariff war. So he keeps everything at a very simplistic A, B, C, D, E, F, G level, so that what we have to do is talk about things at that level. But his diplomatic intervention in the affairs of this country is quite out of order, and we shouldn't
let's not
over
oversell it, though. I think we'll remember when President Obama came here, when Prime Minister Cameron was in office, and said the UK would go to the back of the queue in a trade negotiation, trying to be helpful to David Cameron. Didn't really work. So I think people are smart enough to see through a lot of that. Should he be saying these things? No.
Well, that's my point.
Rule number one is you don't comment on the domestic politics of the country.
But often he does.
That's my point.
And that's not to assume that it's going to help at all. You know,
the great
calling Sadiq
disruptor.
Khan a
Yeah.
loser, it probably won't help his rivals.
No, but Sadiq Khan also criticised
yeah,
him.
I mean, and this is what Trump does, is he focuses on this level. We have to remember that the U.S.-UK relationship is so much deeper and more connected than two people at the top. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses, academics, researchers that are the U.S.-UK relationship, and we can't lose sight of that. They're the thing that makes it work.
Let's talk
not
about
the leaders.
policy, Andrew and Bonnie, because we suspect that Huawei will be one of the discussions that President Trump will want to have here with Theresa May or within the Conservative Party, and perhaps even with Boris Johnson. The US has very strong reasons not to want Huawei, not to want its 5G. The UK, we haven't yet heard on where Boris Johnson or anyone else from the Conservative Party stands by this. How does this affect the relationship if the UK decides not to go with Huawei?
Well, this is where I go back to my point in the beginning about how we're actually going to see the UK-US relationship laid bare. It's not a pretty thing. So what's going to happen, what could happen, is that Trump could put an ultimatum on the table. He's that kind of guy.
What, in the sense, what? Say no to
back off Huawei.
But I think he should, and he's doing the same thing to Canada.
Right. But so my point is that this notion of the United Kingdom having some kind of special relationship with the UK is going to be blown out of the water because, of course, we have a special relationship with Canada. We have a special relationship with Mexico. And look how that hit the buffers. So Huawei is going to be there. He's going to put it down there, and he's going to say, take it or walk out. And that's how he plays.
But I think you have to look not on his tactic, but on is he right? And I think the conversation around Huawei has to be, are they a good actor? I don't think they are. Should advanced Western democracies that share highly sensitive intelligence let them into the system?
Yeah.
And the UK is trying to skate two things, saying we'll let you into some parts of the network, but not others. And let's not forget the UK government set up a special facility to test all Huawei equipment before it went out into the wild for this very reason.
But that's the UK's right. I mean, for him to do my way or the highway diplomacy, which is what he does, is where your country is up against the wall, where Mexico is up against the wall, and it's not the way you do business in a multipolar world, which, by the way, he's not particularly interested in.
That's some of these conversations about Huawei have been going on for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
of
course.
But I'm just invented it.
Interesting that you think that way, actually, Bonnie, because he is very much a transactional president in many ways.
He's a president that looks at this and this.
In a very transactional way.
He doesn't see a multipolar world. It doesn't interest him.
This is where the UK should have its ask ready. If you want something on Huawei, what are we going to get in return?
Right.
I mean, that's the art of the deal here.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
President Trump's phase. And you know, again, look at it on its merits. Let's forget the hysteria and hype around this.
Yeah.
Is having Huawei in your sensitive infrastructure a good or a bad thing? I think you can make a judgment on that. That's independent of Trump.
But the assumption that the United Kingdom didn't know any of this is my point, Andrew. The assumption
but
that
they are not acting in a way that they are concerned about.
It is the business of the United Kingdom to actually, it's sovereign, and it can decide what it wants to do.
It's the business of friends to say, I think this is a bad idea.
It is, but it's not the business of friends to put down on the table what Trump's going to put down there, and you know, because he's done it to you, it's my way or it's the highway. That's how he does his business.
We're running out of time. I want to get just a final comments, final thoughts from both of you. Bonnie, the next 3 days, what are you going to be looking out for? More rolling of eyes, you think?
I'm going to be looking at the Air Force One making its way into the clouds and across the ocean. I'll be looking at that with glee.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I think it's what kind of decision to get out of the UK government, if any, on things like Huawei. And can we please just honor the veterans who fought in World War II and remember that their sacrifice on the 75th anniversary of D-Day is the most important thing on this visit.
And we didn't talk about Iran. We didn't talk about any other topics. There's a lot to talk about, of course. Just want to send some of your comments. Sure, Trump is not just an embarrassment to the United States, but to the entire world. He's not getting a warm welcome here in the UK. Well, it's very different from what we've just seen. Jim Robertson, no good can come from this. Grant, I'll welcome Donald Trump to the UK. Just let him do his job. He says things as they are. Jacobson, he's not welcome in the UK. And Timothy, Trump is destroying this special relationship. One of you, Jimmy Jackson, final thought, said it's like the 4th of July. From all of us here, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back in the next few minutes. Bye-bye.